Hey guys, before I dive into today's main topic, I just want to vent. So, you guys know how 2 days ago I was like, oh yeah, I will come back and stream tomorrow, which was yesterday, and then I wasn't here. Well, of course, like everything in life, stuff just has to happen in a way to where the schedule that you just had established for yourself just doesn't work. It doesn't pan out in the way that you plan and whatever. And yesterday I happened to have started my day early, which that never happens on a day that I'm off, and I was getting stuff done left and right. And then you guys remember how the last stream that I ended, I said I gotta go because I gotta go to Toyota and take care of my mom's car. Well, I ended up going yesterday and I spent like 3 hours over there because the facility that I'm at, they are in the process of renewing it. And of course, stuff is moving a little slower, and I didn't mind that. I made a plan. I'm not going to be rude to the people who work there because I look at the future. If you are upgrading your facility, is because better stuff is on the way. And knowing Toyota, I know that they will deliver. So that wasn't bothering me. But then, right now, 2 minutes ago, before I push the go live button, my doorbell rings, and it turns out to be the UPS guy. And then I remembered that mom said that she was expecting a package. And my mom had texted me saying, remember that the package comes today. And in my mind, I was like, what package? You never told me anything. And then, anyways, it finally arrived. I signed it. It's here. I text her saying that I finally got it. But I just think it's weird because it reminds me of times when people just assume that they told you things or that you know things. And I'm like, you never told me anything. You thought you did. You thought you told me, but you didn't tell me. But, anyways, and I'm just over here beating myself up because today I'm supposed to get a lot of stuff done before my mom comes back tomorrow. And of course, because of the dinosaur that lives in this house, there's a lot of cleaning that I have to do because he is just in a destructive behavior. So now I have to do this thing that someone sent me from a board that talks about redirective training for a cat. And I'm like, I just do not have the time or patience or willingness for that. But I guess I'm going to have to if I want for things to get better in this house. So, anyways, so I decided to just spend the morning killing time watching videos on occasion, like certain YouTube videos. And then last night, I kept being awakened by this cat trying to like rip a hole through the bottom of my door. So I only got 2 hours of sleep and then maybe 2 more hours broken up. So I'm already in a bad mood about that because I know that when I go to bed tonight, I'm going to have a hard time falling asleep. And tomorrow, I need to be well rested because I have an early shift and I also have to drive an hour and a half away to pick up my mother. So, and that's to and from. So that means 3 hours. And every time I do that drive, I end up beat. But, anyways, um, that's pretty much all the venting that I had to do. So now I'm just going to dive into the video. And I felt like if I didn't get that out of my system, I just wasn't going to focus. So this video idea was actually triggered by by a video by Philip DeFranco talking about James Gunn. And basically, the part that caught my eye was when he said that he'll pass along the question to us about at what point in someone's life do you separate the past from the present? And then I thought, oh, come on, Phil, such an intelligent man, and you cannot figure that out. That is so easy. Literally, the time when you separate the past from the present is God damn, I don't know. So I decided to just start a stream and try to piece it together as I go and see how this turns out. But my immediate impression is I think that, first of all, I have said this before in the past, but I feel like as humans during our developmental stages, and I want to say those stages are the time that we are in school being guided before we are thrown into the world out there as adults who are supposed to be capable of conducting their lives. I think that we do not have a very clear transition amongst the stages of life. Like, what kind of training do you feel you personally underwent between transitioning from being a baby to being a child to being a preteen to being a teen to being an adult. So every time I look back in time and I think about all the stuff that has happened in recent years, I keep thinking, oh my God, some things happened 6, 7, 8 years ago. When did that happen? How did that happen? How was I even considered old enough to be taking care of some things? Like, I just wish that there was some kind of guidance. I don't want to make this seem like we all need to be babysat, but I feel like part of the confusion about getting older is that we are not always clear on some things. There's people out there who are just genuinely clueless about their lives. I was one of them. I was the person who said, I know I ain't going to college. I know that I will get a job. I don't know what I'll do, but it's certainly going to be entry level, low paying. But I just did not want to go into college to start figuring things out, especially when this is something that's time sensitive, meaning that the longer that I take, the more expensive this stuff is going to get. And we're not exactly living in the kindest of times when it comes to being a person with debt. So I said to myself, what I'll do is I'll get in debt with the things that will actually do things for me, as opposed to things that are sort of theoretically going to do something for me, and that is a car loan. The first thing I said that I needed in my life was my license and a car because that will facilitate my move around here. My car is only like 2 years away from being paid off, so I just cannot wait because once that's gone, I will have some money to just pretty much pocket and address situations as they arise. But but you see, this is the stuff that no one really talks to you about when you're in school. Nobody tells you how to buy a car. Nobody tells you how to file your taxes. And of course, a part of it is probably because the standard courses of study are not geared like that. They're trying to turn you into this nerdy person who is all about the sciences and becoming very good in theory. It's like all I kept hearing when I was in school was get a degree in the sciences, you are a girl, you are a minority, and they need a lot of help in that field. And I'm like, I know I like science, I know I love it, but what if I want to do something that's different? For instance, working for myself. What if I don't want to have a boss? What if I don't want to be under the rules of anybody? What if I want to have my own medical center? Like, how come people do not talk to you about being more independent? That's easy because the school system has not really been updated to where you're no longer being treated as a factory worker. You're just trained to follow rules and obey stuff as opposed to being proactive about starting your own stuff. You know, this subjugation stuff going on. And it didn't make a lot of sense to me back then as a student. I did not see that. But now that I'm older, I'm like, why isn't anybody talking about having their own thing? Why do people think that's not possible? Especially group economics. I wish that people would somehow just trust each other and find people who you can just trust so that you can get your own thing started as opposed to having someone else create your schedule, you build somebody else's wealth, you build someone else's company, and you get pretty much scraps. I don't think that's fair, especially if you spend 4 or 5 years working on a so-called degree. God forbid if you decide to go for even further, like grad school and stuff like that. It's painful for me. It's abominable that you go to school for the first 13 years of your life already, or excuse me, more like the first 18 years of your life. How come those 18 years are not sufficient enough? I can understand spending an extra two during your associate stage, but why all this wait? It just doesn't make sense. And I just urge everyone who is an adult, you know, if you're an adult, you should have control of your time. You should have money do work for you as opposed to you working for money. I'm pretty sure that all of us, if we were to lose our jobs today, we are fucked. Like, you have to probably line up an unemployment and hopefully They will do something for you. And there are people out there who they ain't gotta worry about this. They don't have to worry about getting up in the morning and completing shifts and also being able to afford stuff like healthcare and having a car, having insurance, having a rent, or they even own property and this and that. It's clear that some people are getting preferential treatments and whatnot. But to me, it's just insane that most of us have to respond to someone. We don't have something of our own. If we lose our jobs, that's it. We are stressed until we find another one. And not only that, but the jobs that we get are pretty thankless. And you work hard, you feel it physically, your ankles hurt, the bottom of your feet hurt, your back hurts. You're giving your life away, you're giving your youth away, your energy, your strength. And then when you think about it, at the end of the day, you're not building something for you. You don't have a legacy of your own to pass down, whereas these motherfuckers who employ you do. See what I mean? And the only reason I sound angry about this and irritated is because I feel like I should be a little farther in life now, given the amount of time that I spend away from home and trying to, the grind. I don't think that I should have to be worried about not making money. If I'm unhappy about the place that I'm at, I should be able to just quit and be months feeling all right. But if I don't have that source of income, it's like, oh wow, I'm screwed because I'm from the lower hierarchy of society. Whereas there's people out there who are obscenely rich. They have more money than they know what to do with, and on top of that, they keep wanting to make more. Like that is just so messed up. The distribution of wealth is just incredibly messed up. So I know that I went off in an enormous vent and rant there that could have been a whole stream of its own. But now, when it comes to separating your past from the present, the reason I went on that entire vent is because, like I said, there's no true transition. You get told that you need to get a job because you need to be able to live alone, be independent and whatnot. But realistically, most of us, if you live by yourself, you will need to work God knows how many jobs, and that's why most people opt for having stuff like roommates and whatnot. But see, when it comes to that, when do you have time to introspect and determine who you are as a person? Maybe that's why we got these people out there who, in the name of getting attention, they make rough jokes, they act immature despite being in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Like I mentioned the other day, there's people who, when you're young, most of us said, I can't wait to be old and be able to have a car and this and that. And then when you finally get to that age, all you're begging for is to be able to be silly and playful and act like a kid and all that. And you just wish that you had time to just fool around and toy around and people would understand your silliness. It's like when animals sneeze, it's cute, but when a human sneezes, it's like everyone backs off from you because you're sick and they don't want to get sick. So, same thing with when you're a child. When you do silly stuff, most people find it funny, most people forgive you, but all of a sudden, when you're an adult, the expectations of you are different because apparently you're in this magical age to where you're supposed to know what you're doing, you're supposed to know right from wrong, even though you really have not had a solid direction for that. And like I said, some stuff we need to be held accountable for, but let's face it, not everyone has the support and need like the support during their developing years. I was fortunate enough to have my mother who constantly would point out what was right from wrong, and even she was not always sure about what to do in certain situations. But I can say I had good guidance despite not having a paternal figure influencing me. Like, I don't go around getting in trouble. I don't go around getting sick or trying drugs or doing crazy things. I have never even had a parking ticket. I'm completely clean. Some people cannot say that. And I'm not saying that that makes me the best human out there or whatnot, but at least to give you an idea of where I stand, it seems like I'm doing all right when it comes to making the right decisions to keep my life simple. So when we look at other people and we judge them because they're famous and we think that they're indestructible, like they have their issues going on, and we devalue them as human beings because they have what most of us seem to want, which is wealth. So therefore, you have a lot of money. Money magically fixes all your problems. That's not true. So see what I mean? That's why we are quick to being harsh on someone, because we're looking up to these people, to the elite, as our models, and we're like, oh yeah, totally. If you're messing up, then you do deserve to lose your job because you already make a lot of money. You don't deserve to be making that much money, especially when the job that you do is not as tough as mine. And I'm like, how do you know that the work that he does is not as tough as yours? It's creative work. Creative work can be challenging. Some days your brain is into it, some days it's not. So it's actually a particularly tricky job to have, because how do you determine the value of your labor? Some creative works might have been easy to elaborate by children. But other creative works just need time and effort and heavenly muse, whatever. And not everyone can summon that, especially put it together to where you can deliver these movies that make millions of dollars and intrigue enough of a big audience to remain relevant. See what I'm saying? So if these people were really not that great at their jobs, do you think that would be possible? Do you think it would be possible to hook an audience when you don't have what it takes to put together a work of art like that, to where people are willing to give their hard earned money to go to the theater? Like, I know I don't go to the theater unless I'm taken or invited or something. But, the fact that there's people out there who don't even have that much money, but they still go out there to seek this entertainment, that says a lot about that person. Like in this case, James Gunn. Clearly, he made a good movie. People went out there and saw it. So everyone works hard in their own way. That's all I'm saying. But when it comes to one's past, that's particularly tricky because you just don't know what a person has gone through. And especially if you happen to have a different culture, I find that there are cultures that are more advanced, more mature at earlier ages. And then there was also this book that I was recommended that I haven't read yet, but it's called A Century of Childhood or something like that. And basically, it's talking about how people, when they were even younger, they were able to hold so many more responsibilities than today's youth, although being a few years more mature, they still cannot handle that. So it's like saying, I'm in my 20s, but the stuff that I'm starting to accomplish now in my 20s, children were already fulfilling. So it's just messier than it seems on the surface. So to finally give my absolute answer to the question of when do you separate your past from the present, that's not something that can be determined, because especially if it's something that's permanently stamped, like tweets, Facebook posts, any letters that you write and you send off to someone, God knows what that person is going to do with those letters. People just need to understand that what you were in the past is not indicative of who you are in the present. And most people just don't like to accept that, because sometimes it's all about a person has something that you want and they accomplished it so, in your eyes, effortlessly, that you just want to be successful without putting in the consistency, patience, and work that it takes for you to be successful as a person. So, anytime someone brings someone dark from someone's past, although that past has already been addressed, that's a person who's desperate to take this person who's already in a station in life that they want to be, and they just want to bring them down somehow, like humiliate them in a way and be like, you're not this flawless being, you're a disappointment, and you're actually a big fuck up, and this and that. And I'm like, you too have your shady past. Don't even prompt it, because I'm sure that all of us have something that if we dig or look deep enough, we're going to find it. So I think people just need to r- realize their own hypocrisy, call themselves out, and just move on from that. Because I find that it's just normally people with a degree of jealousy that end up doing that. You cannot see someone succeeding um, at a quick rate because you get frustrated that you're not there yet, although you're doing some kind of work. But I'm guessing you just do not entreat people the way that you want to, period. It's as if the best way I can think of that is if I were to get mad that I do not have millions of subscribers, just like some people manage that overnight, or so it seems. Well, if I don't have that, A, maybe I'm not shooting for that, maybe I'm not working for that, maybe I'm not putting the work that it takes. Maybe I'm not addressing the topics and content that people are looking for. And maybe I'm not promoting my content so much. You know what? Because I just don't care. That's not my goal. So I just so happen to have been able to make it decently to where I have you guys now. But I just think it's crazy that there's people out there who would actively have beef with a person who's doing well. And I'm like, what are you doing to make your situation better? Let's talk about that. And usually, when you look at it, when you analyze that specific person, they are people who just do the bare minimum and they want to be rewarded for that. I'm like, no, even if you were giving your best and going max at things, that doesn't guarantee success. I mean, maybe your place, your success is different. You cannot base it off someone else's accomplishments. You have to introspect, determine what makes you feel like you are fulfilled, and move on from that. Do not base your values off somebody else's. That's all I have to say. So let me see what you guys are saying. Hello there. I harp on the James Gunn thing a lot, and there's no concrete answer for this, but as a general rule, I would say separate the past from the present as soon as it's no longer relevant. Exactly. Like, you know, at some point, you grow out of things. I grew out of video games. So that's why when you guys ask me questions about games and stuff, I'm like, just to give you a heads up, I am no longer a gamer. This represented an important time in my life. Like this was what was happening during my development, but I am no longer well informed to have opinion on many things that are going on in the present. So I have already separated my past self as a gamer from the person who I am now. And that's why I don't really dwell on it much. So so yeah, pretty much games to me are not relevant. And I frankly don't think that I'll go back to being a gamer like I used to be. My interests are different. May I kiss the darkness out of you because you need it? Case in point, James Gunn made those tweets years ago, was dragged for them years ago. He apologized, and then people who were actually concerned moved on. Exactly. Once a person has addressed it, acknowledged it, just let it go. Because it's just dumb that we climb up the wall that we established about, okay, this is what happened, move on. Maybe that's why society really doesn't progress as much as it could, especially on a mental capacity, because we just like to keep people, misery loves company. So I feel like whoever tries to bring you down, analyze who they are. Are they someone who's happy with their lives or someone who's miserable? Because usually people who are happy with their lives, they don't go about wasting their time trying to bring someone down. It just doesn't happen. Just doesn't work that way. That tells me it's no longer relevant. You're speaking some good stuff with the independence. Hello, Zam. I can't stick around very long, but wanted to say hey, and I like the topic here. I might try to comment. Awesome, Jimmy. I look forward to it. You're probably gone by now, but anyways. Creative works value is very much determined by the market. You can ask for any amount, but there has to be someone willing to pay that for it. For labor, it's mutual agreement. See, and that makes sense. It's like if I were to create this dope ass portrait, I am not going to get, like, no one is going to bid millions on it because my brand is just not something that people are looking for. So, whereas a more distinguished artist, of course, they could draw a straight line and someone would pay good money for it for some reason. And that reason is because this person has just been out there more, they're just known better. It's like Some people just buy original works for the sake of having something that this person's fingerprints were on. We just admire and do things like that. It's like some form of celebrity worship. I'm not going to feel any type of way about that, because that that doesn't mean that my art is not good. It just means that someone else has a privilege over me because they are better known in the industry. And as opposed to me being mad about it, I'm like, how about if I promote my work differently? If I am looking to make money off art, I need to show my merchandise in order to sell it. Am I doing that? No. Am I putting in the hours to art that it takes for me to become an artist that can, grow, explode, and become something big? No. Why am I going to be mad about not being a successful artist? I have so much better things to do with my time. And hating on someone who is many steps ahead of me in the game is not one of it, you know? Creative works value is often hurt by the fact that so many are willing to buy into the exposure myth. You should never work for free, but if you don't, they'll find someone who will. The truth is, most of us are not able to handle the truth, so instead of using math as truth, we use language and confusion. Exactly, and then it doesn't help that a lot of our sources of communication are also um, deliberately being deceiving. Like, we're all just a bunch of people who we don't know where information comes from. We don't question it. We really don't have a way to corroborate stuff. Like, information have random origins, and we're not really tracing that. How can you even begin to trace that? It used to be that you just worried about the stuff that happened to you on a local level, you know? But anyways, you guys, that concludes my rambling. I know that I really didn't dwell on the past versus present much, but I hope that you see what I was aiming at with my breakdown of between the subjugation and being involved in other people's projects and make them wealthy, whereas you don't really benefit much. But yeah, I think that once your past no longer affects you presently and it's not really what's supplying you with your tools to get your job done or whatever it is that you do presently, then just ignore it. And your present should always be your primary concern. What you do presently, consider the future, and you are not ever going to be certain about what the future is going to bring. You can make all the plans that you want, just like when I say, yeah, guys, I'm going to be back here tomorrow. And guess what? There was no way that I could foresee some of the stuff that would happen in the day that I promised that I would be here. So, are you guys holding me accountable for my past of having said, Zam, you said that you would stream yesterday and you weren't there? No, you don't do it because you guys are mature folks that you understand that stuff that is out of my control may happen that may keep me away from streaming. Why can't other people just be like that? Like, okay, stuff happens, unforeseen stuff happens. And then these companies that have outrageous promises, like, oh yeah, we guarantee that you're gonna get your stuff like delivered within a day, and then you get it like 3 days later. It's like, okay, maybe there was a wreck, maybe there was a delay at the airport, inclement weather, stuff that you cannot even account for. That happens. So humans just need to stop making promises that are pretty much impossible to hold up to or like live up to. Like the holiday season as well. People are like, oh, why don't you have this product? Bitch, we sold it. There's a high demand for stuff that's in season. So maybe plan ahead and do not be part of the last crew that's getting stuff at the last minute because other people had better organizational skills than you did and they got their products, they got their stuff. We are not supposed to solve your problems. You need to be proactive, make a plan and execute it. But anyways, that's a whole nother rant that I'm sure I have done already, but maybe I'll say it again for the sake of just reiterating. All right, guys, I'm going to bail now. I'm gonna try to do something with my day, what's left of it. So yeah, I appreciate you being here, and it felt good to just put this out there and to hear what you guys had to say. So maybe if I get my mind together in a more direct way, I'll revisit this topic and be like, oh yeah, this is what I meant to say about past and present. But I mean, you guys said stuff that I agreed with, and you said it better than I could have, and it's pretty clear. So it's good to see that other people see where I'm coming from, and then you guys put your voices out there as well. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks so much.